Okay, so we're class number 5 of Masechet Makkot. So just to bring us back to where we were, we have this law of Edim Zomemim. The law of Edim Zomemim, witnesses that testify falsely about a defendant, and it ends up they were lying. Another set of witnesses come and say, you were with us in a different place. We showed that contrary to what the Torah says, the Torah says you do to the witnesses what the witnesses wanted to do to the defendant. Contrary to that, we show that there are cases where, no, you don't do to them what they wanted to do to the defendant, but rather you give them malkut. And we said, what is the source for this, that we give them malkut? Kabbalah. We saw that from Harambam. Harambam brings the law and he says, Al pi Kabbalah. This is tradition, an ancient tradition. And we also brought the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. He tried to bring a Kal Vachomer, rejected. We saw the opinion of Bar Pedab, tried to bring a Kal Vachomer, rejected. Okay, so that's where we were. So what are we left with? We're left with Va'asitem lo kasher zaram la'asot le'achiv lo velo lezar'o. Right? That was the derasha of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Right? We don't make him a ben Gerusha Mechasa. I'll get to you in a moment. And we had the derasha of Resh Lakish. Hi, how are you? There's a book here. Hu yanus el achate arim. Hu velo zomemim. Right? So that's what we were left with. Now, there are some outstanding questions. As I said, I will get to you in a moment. And the Gemara doesn't leave any outstanding questions. So there are outstanding questions that we're still a little, unsure about, that need to be clarified. And the purpose of the next sugya is to clarify those outstanding questions. And I will tell you in a moment what those outstanding questions are. But first, I noticed that Albert wanted to...
You got to start early with the questions. We're looking for a source from Malkut, but it seems the sources that we have are not from Malkut, just that we don't do the other question.
Correct.
It doesn't show that we do Malkut.
That is absolutely correct. He just raised actually a very good point. What we saw in the Pesukim that we brought 2 Pesukim. One Pasuk was, Va'asitem lo, you should do to the witness, Ka'asher zamam, as he planned, la'asot le'achiv, to do to the defendant, to his fellow brother. We said lo velo lezaro, we do to the witness, we punish. We don't punish the children of the witness. So therefore, if he came and said the defendant is a ben gerusha or ben halusa, he's a halal, we don't turn the witness into a halal, because by turning the witness into a halal, we're actually punishing the children of the witness. Lo velo lezaro. Okay, who said we give him malkut? Who said we give him malkut? Now don't forget, malkut is a criminal penalty. You cannot give a criminal penalty unless there's a statute that says, here it is. So what's the, number one, what's the violation? Number two, where do we get this criminal penalty? Malkut is a formal criminal under Jewish law. Only somebody who violated or is guilty of a crime can get malkut. So that's an outstanding question. Excellent. The next sugya, you know what? If it's Kabbalah, fine. So it could be Kabbalah, but we have to establish it. The point is, you can't leave that question outstanding. All the Kabbalah gave us was that we don't turn the son of the witnesses into a ben gerusha or ben halusa. The Kabbalah gave us that if somebody testifies, two people testified that this person is guilty of negligent homicide, we don't send the witnesses into the in miklat. Okay. Kabbalah. Who says we give him malkut? That's the question. You understand who says we give him malkut? So that's what we're going to be dealing with in this sugya. Okay? That's one of the questions. There's also another outstanding question. Go back to the top of the page. Menahanamile. 4 lines from the top of the page. This is a previous sugya. We read this last week. Okay? Just bear with me and let's read it together. Mena hanemile. Again, what is the source for the law that if the edim zomemim testify that the defendant is guilty of negligent homicide, that we do not do to the witnesses what would have happened to the defendant, namely the defendant would have gone to a sanctuary city. Well, we don't turn around and say the witnesses go to a sanctuary city. What's the source for the fact that we don't do that to them? So Reish Lakish says, "Hu yanus elahati arim, hu velo zomemin." Okay, that's Kabbalah. Rabbi Yohanan amar kal vachomer. Rabbi Yohanan said kal vachomer, and this is one of the points that was outstanding. Let's look at the kal vachomer of Rabbi Yohanan. It was as follows: Umahu she'asa ma'aseh enogole. If the actual criminal committed negligent homicide. He's a criminal. He actually did an act, right? There was an action he did. And many times, as I said last week, sometimes these criminals don't go to the sanctuary city for whatever reason, right? That's a separate subject for another sugyan. The Gemara will deal with that. The false witnesses that didn't actually commit an act. Of course, obviously they should not go to Galut by a fortiori reasoning or by Kal Vachomer. So here's a question. What does it mean, Hen Shelo Asu Ma'aseh, they didn't commit an act? What does that mean, right? You have to define it in law. What does it mean there is an action? What is considered an action in law? And why is it that the testimony of these witnesses is not considered a Ma'aseh? We didn't really explain that well. So that's an outstanding point that we're going to be dealing with in the Sugya tonight. So there's 2 points. Number one is a question that Albert asked. What is the basis for the fact that they get Malkut? We didn't answer that. We never said that. And number 2, what is Ma'aseh? What is not Ma'aseh? So those are the 2 things we're going to be dealing with in this Sugya. And you see the way we study Gemara, everything is interconnected, everything is clear, everything ties together. That's the way that's why we're studying the Gemara. So let's now begin the sugya. Okay?
Can I ask a quick question on the previous one?
Yes.
Is there a difference between saying Rabbi Yohanan Amar and Rabbi Yohanan Omer?
Yes. Yeah, I guess it just wasn't. They all get out here Rabbi Yohanan Amar, and well, yeah. So I was following the Olger Salt, but I guess grammatically there's a difference. I didn't think about it.
Is this book the older Girsah, or you just wrote it?
No, I mean, I'm relying on the Munich manuscript, which I don't have with me now. Okay. But actually, if you look at the Rabbeinu Hananel, which you have on the side, it also has Amar. Okay. Let's continue now in the new sugya. The new sugya is Ullah. There's something with the word Ullah. Does anybody see it? Yes, Amar Ullah. You see like there's an asterisk? Okay, see the asterisk, next to the asterisk, Amar Ullah. Okay. Amar Ullah. Remez le'edim zomimim min Torah menayin. Okay, I'm reading it for you, and then after I read it, I will explain it. Remez le'edim zomimim v'haketib ועשיתם לו כאשר זמם, אלא רמז לעדים זוממים שלוקים מן התורה מנין, תכתיב, והסדיקו את הסדיק, והרשיעו את הרשע, והיה אם בין הכל הרשע, משום והסדיקו את הסדיק, והרשיעו את הרשע, והיה אם בין הכל הרשע, אלא עדים שהרשיעו את הסדיק, ועטו עדים אחרינה והסדיקו את הסדיק מעיקרה ושבין הוא להנה רשעים והיה אם בינקות הרשע. That entire let's say paragraph, let's call it, that whole thing is a statement of Ullah. Okay? And let me explain to you what's happening. Ullah was originally from Eretz Yisrael. He was from Israel. He studied in the yeshiva in Tiberias with Rabbi Yohanan. And Rabbi Yohanan was considered one of the greatest Emoraim, and he was the Rosh Yeshiva. Ullah was a student. What happened is that Ullah, he ended up leaving Eretz Yisrael and moving to Babel. And he stayed in Babel, and then he ended up dying in Babel. And as he was dying, he was decrying the fact that he's dying in Babel. And his Talmidim says, why does it matter where you die? He says, neshama is leaving this world in a place of tum'ah, and I could have been leaving in a place of tahorah in Eretz Yisrael. So he was very sad about that situation, but nevertheless, that's what happened. He moved to Bavel. Now, when he moved to Bavel, he joined the yeshiva in Bavel. And oftentimes, he had certain lessons that he learned from Rabbi Yohanan that he was able to contribute to the understanding of the legal issues being discussed in the yeshiva, right? So Ula is brought as a special, let's say, supplementary source for certain things that in Babel they didn't know. But this Hakam came from Eretz Yisrael. There was no YouTube. There was no, web. There was no nothing. And he's actually coming and enlightening them. So here's what he says. Remez le'edim zomemin min haTorah menayin. How do we have a remez? A remez for the law of edim zomemin in the Torah. Do we have a remez for the law of edim zomemin from the Torah? Where is there a remez? So first of all, two questions. What does the word remez mean? A hint, right? Meaning, what is it? What's the upshot? There is no explicit pasuk. If you say, "Give me a hint to something," what does that mean? It's not explicit, right? So remez means something that I could almost use as some sort of mnemonic. It's not really the meaning of the pasuk, but I can use the pasuk as somehow indicating towards that proposition. So he says, where do I have a remez for the law of edim zomemim min Torah? Now don't forget, Ula is an outsider. He's not from Bavel. Now the people in the yeshiva, they hear this and they immediately correct him. Right? So they're not just gonna, they correct him. So you see what's happening in the yeshiva? Ula is in the yeshiva. He's about to make the statement. He says, where is there a remez, a hint, an allusion for the law of edim zomemim min Torah? And the yeshiva interrupts him. They say, what are you talking about? Remez le'edim zomemim? What do you mean remez le'edim zomemim? Ve'haketiv, there is an explicit pasuk. We don't need a remez. It's there. The pasuk says, va'asitim lo ka'asher zaman. There's an actual pasuk that says that if you have false witnesses and it ends up that another set of witnesses come and say these people were with us, they could not have seen what they alleged to have seen, what they claim to have seen because they were with us at the time, they couldn't have seen the defendant. It says va'asitim lo ka'asher zaman. There's an explicit pasuk. So what do you mean when you say remez le'edim zomemin? So he immediately corrects himself. He says, I stand corrected. I skipped a very important word. Ella remez le'edim zomemin shelokim min haTorah menayin. Where is there a remez? This is Albert's question. Where is there a remez for the contention that edim zomemim get malkut? We know that Torah says explicitly you do to the edim zomemim what they wanted to do to the defendant. You're coming and you're telling me, there are some cases where they get malkut. There is no explicit source. Look at the entire Torah, Mikey. You won't see any place in the Torah where it says, Ayet Zomem gets malkut. Doesn't exist. So what can you have? Then what are you left with? There's no derashot. If there was derashot, we bring a derashah. Now we're in the generation of the Emoraim, and there's no derashot. So what are they going to do? Remez. The most we can do is remez. Remez means some allusion. So when I look at that pasuk, I'll remember the law of. So I'm reading the Torah now. When I read the Torah, I like to think about the pasukim that I'm reading, and yes, remez. I remember. Oh yes, edim zomemim get malkut, and here's like an allusion to that. You got it's like a mnemonic device, right? Now, somebody asked me in the WhatsApp group. I don't know what members here. If you're not a member, send me your email, and I'm happy to join you because it really we have some good discussions there for those who want. Somebody asked me, I said in a previous class that Tanaim, they make derashot on the Pesukim. And I said, Emoraim don't make derashot on the Pesukim. So many times you'll see Tanaim, they'll bring a Pasuk, and they'll say, from this Pasuk we learn such and such, right? So, V'haya le'ot al yadecha. So what does it mean? V'haya le'ot al yadecha, yod dalet kafeh. I'll just give you an example. Yod dalet kafeh, what did you say? Yad keha. Exactly, that's the derasha. Yad keha. So they teach you that you put the tefillin. Why does it say yod dalet kafeh? Usually the word yadecha is spelled yod dalet kaf. But here it's spelled, you should put the ot on your arm, it's spelled yod dalet kafeh because the word yod dalet kafeh can be broken into two. Yad keha, the weaker hand. So where do you put the tefillin? on the weaker hand. Which is the weaker hand? Not the hand that you write with, but the hand that you don't write with. So if you're a righty, you put it on your left hand. Okay, so that's Gatka, that's a derasha. Who makes derashot? Only Tanaim make derashot. And Moraim do not make derashot. Why? Why is that? Understand the question? So here's the thing. Before Rabbeinu HaKadosh formulated the Mishnayot, the Tanaim, the Hachamim of that period were called Tanaim. They would formulate laws. They would formulate the laws of the Torah Shebe'al Peh according to, as they wish. So if I'm a Talmid of Rabbi Akiva, I'll formulate it according to his way. If I'm a Talmid of one of the other great Chachamim, I don't know, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Rabbi Ishmael, I'll formulate it according to Rabbi Yosef HaGalili. I'll formulate it, or they formulated it, in a different way. There was no set formulation of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. So what happened? When they formulated the halachot, they would formulate them based on the derashot of the pesukim. So they wouldn't just formulate the halachot, but for example, what I said, when you put the tefillin, you have to put it on the weak hand. How do you know you have to put it on the weak hand? Because it says ve'aya le'ot al yadecha. So you would formulate the halacha in accordance with the pasuk in the Torah. What happened? Comes Rabbeinu HaKadosh. So now, before Rabbeinu HaKadosh, so what do you have? You have all these different formulations of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. Every Chacham formulates the Torah Shebe'al Peh differently. Oh, they have the right. They're the Tanaim. Nobody can tell me how to formulate it. I have my private group of Talmidim. Here's the way I wanted to formulate it. Study these halachot Be'al Peh, know them well, and know the pesukim associated with the halachot. That's, I'm the Chacham. I decide. Comes Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and he stops all of it. Why? There were so many different formulations of the Torah Shebe'al Peh that there was confusion. Confusion in the sense that now that the Jewish polity, the political entity of the Jewish people, was going to become diminished, and the Jews were going to go into exile, you're going to have these different halachot, and it will cause confusion. People say, wait, is halakha like this, Hakam? Or is halakha like that, Hakam? Everybody has a different formula. There were different formulations.
They're against each other?
Ah, that's a great question. That's a great question. I like that you asked that question. It shows that you're thinking. And the answer is not necessarily. Many times they just formulated the halakha differently. And because they formulated the halakha differently, you may think that there was a mahloket. There wasn't a mahloket, it's a different formulation. Everybody has their own, style. Some people like to be ma'arichim a little, to lengthen it. Some people like to be very short. So there was mahloket, which was completely redundant, because there wasn't so much mahloket for real. It was just because of the different formulations. So what does Rabbeinu HaKadosh do? He comes and he says, that's it. I'm making a single, unified formulation of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. And what's a unified formulation? Unified in the sense that everybody is going to follow this formulation from now on. And what is that formulation called? Who knows? Mishnayot. Exactly.
It's based on what they.
So yeah, he took the Beraitot, he compiled them, he organized them, and he formulated the Mishnah. He relied mostly on the Beraitot of Rabbi Meir. He did rely mostly on the Beraitot of Rabbi Meir, but that was it. Now the Chachamim accepted it. Now after he formulated the Mishnah, I don't have a right now to come and start making new Beraitot. That's why it's called the generation of the Amoraim. The generation of the Amoraim, they do not have that right. Right? They can't now say, okay, I want to reformulate the Torah Shebe'al Peh. Really? We all accepted the Mishnayot for a reason. We accept the Mishnayot because we wanted to unify Am Yisrael under the Mishnayot. So no, you cannot now come and say, I now want to formulate the following halakha. What Rabbeinu HaKadosh formulated, he formulated. You cannot go now and start formulating your own Mishnayot. So the Mishnayot became, till today by the way, the Mishnayot represents the ultimate formulation of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. That's what the Mishnayot is. You understand? That's what Rabbeinu HaKadosh did. So because the Emoraim, the Hachamim that came after the Mishnayot, there was Tanaim, then the Mishnayot were formulated by Rabbeinu HaKadosh, then the later Hachamim were called the Emoraim. The Emoraim do not come to formulate new laws. So there's no point in making derashot. What was the point of the derashot? To try to connect the halachot, the baraitot, the laws that you made with pesukim. But you're not formulating laws anymore, so that's it. There's no more that connection. Yes, Mikey.
So fast. Don't have something that says in poskim halacha from the Mishnah.
Right. So that's right.
That's the ultimate perfect. Everybody accepted it. It should have been accepted. And that's
Right.
the,
My father discusses that at length in his new book that still didn't come out, and Bezat Hashem, we should be zuchim that should be coming out. He discusses that, and lo al pi Mishnah, lo al pi Talmud. He has a long discussion about what that means. But for our purposes now, we didn't say that you should make Pesach halacha al pi Mishnah. We said the Mishnah represents the final formulation of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. How are you posek halacha? That's why you need the Gemara. The Gemara comes to interpret the Mishnah. So you need the Gemara to interpret the Mishnah. You can't just say, oh, the Mishnah says this, and I'm going to make pesach halacha. No, because that's why you have the Gemara. So the Gemara is the explanation of the Mishnayot. So when we make pesach halacha, we need the explanation of the Mishnayot. You can't just use the Mishnah to make pesach. You understand the point? There's a subtle difference between saying the Mishnah represents the ultimate formulation, but what does the Mishnah mean? What does this word in the Mishnah mean? Right? That's a different question. Yes, yeah.
But does the Beit Din HaGadol not have complete authority? Like, if they...
No, I didn't say they don't have complete authority. But you now, and I agree with you, but I'm not even going there. I'm just saying, all I'm saying is that the Mishnah represented the ultimate formulation of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. Take the Mishnayot, study it. That's what Torah Shebe'al Peh. How do you make Pesach halacha? Just because I know Mishnayot Be'al Peh doesn't mean I can make Pesach halacha. I can be a child, 5, 6 years old, I'm studying Mishnayot Be'al Peh. Am I going to make Pesach halacha? No. For that you need the Gemara. You understand my point? So the issue of Bet Din HaGadol not, I agree with you, but it's not necessary. I don't need to explain that. I'm just saying what the Mishnah is and what it's not. It is a formulation of Torah Shebe'al Peh. It is not a source for Pesach halacha, unless you have the Gemara that says, here's what the Mishnah means, here's when we make Pesach halacha from the Mishnah, and then you can make Pesach halacha. But without the Gemara, you cannot make Pesach halacha.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I've heard somewhere that the Torah Shebe'al Peh was given to Moses on Mount Sinai.
Yes, of course.
Like that.
Absolutely.
So wouldn't that be the Mishnah?
Right, no. So the point is, when Moshe Rabbeinu received the Torah Shebe'al Peh, it was Be'al Peh. It wasn't written down. Now, when the Chachamim taught the laws that they received, Ish Mipi Ish, everybody taught it in their own language. And then the Chachamim started formulating the laws of Moshe Rabbeinu. One Chacham would formulate it in a particular style. Another Chacham would formulate it in a completely different way. Now, what happened? People started thinking, oh, there's a machloket between these Chachamim. Now, originally, Shammai and Hillel, they only had 3 machlokot. That was the entire machloket of all the Torah Shebe'al Peh. At the beginning of Beit Sheni, there was 3 machlokot. What happens when the time we come to the Mishnayot? How many, I don't know, tens and tens and tens of machlokot in Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, probably more. I'm way understating it. Hundreds of machlokot. Where did these machlokot come from? Because there was different formulations, and people attributed these different formulations to machlokot when there were no machlokot. And that's why Rabbeinu HaKadosh says, okay, I have to stop this, and I have to now compile everything in a unified language. And this will be the summary of the Torah Shebe'al Peh that we receive from Moshe Rabbeinu. You understand the point? So
I understand, but right. I question back to what I said about the Tefillim. It says Al Yadcha, which is Yad Keha.
Yes.
Right. That Moses did it. Moshe Rabbeinu say that. Isn't that what he taught the people, or the Rabbanim came to this conclusion?
That's a great question. So there are many laws that we received from Moshe Rabbeinu. Many laws. There were many laws that later on the Chachamim, the Batei Din, the Supreme Court of Israel, also added to the Torah Shebe'al Peh, and that became part of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. So not all. So for example, all of the tefillin is square, and that it's black, and what you make it from, and how you sew it, and the Perashiot, that was from Moshe Rabbeinu, right? But then there was other laws that came later, right? And not all the laws that are in the Torah Shebe'al Peh were originally from Moshe Rabbeinu, but many, the primary laws are from Moshe Rabbeinu. You see?
The roots of the laws.
There was the Tariag Mitzvot. Every one of the Tariag Mitzvot had a pasuk, right? An explanation of the pasuk, how to fulfill the mitzvah. Peri Sadar, etrog. Everybody knew that Peri Sadar is etrog. Everybody knew that. They knew what etrog was. But then there was other laws that came later on that also became part of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. So the Torah Shebe'al Peh grew.
Expanded.
It expanded. Now, when Rabbeinu HaKadosh formulated the Mishnayot, the purpose of that formulation was to create a single, unified text that will, when I say unified, I mean that will unify all of Am Yisrael and all of the Chachamim, and everybody would say, this is now the official formulation of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. Until now, every Tana would formulate it how he saw fit. That's it, that's stopping. Why? Because every Tana formulating it as he saw fit led to machlokot among the Jewish people, which we can discuss why that happened. And you get it, Shadid Gaon discusses it, and my father discussed it in the Golden Doves, so that's a different class. But the Mishnayot unified Am Yisrael. And the Rambam says in the Akdamat of the Mishneh Torah that once Rabbeinu HaKadosh wrote the Mishnayot, all the Hachamim accepted the Mishnayot, and that was it. So that's why the Amoraim do not formulate new laws. Only the Tanaim formulated laws. The Amoraim do not make derashot on Pesukim that the Tanaim did. Now we have the Mishnayot. We don't do that anymore. That's it. It's over. Halas. Adkan Tachum Shabbat. Yes, sir.
But the Mishnayot are not always conclusive. They still leave.
100, right. And that's the
It's not
point.
like you narrowed everyone down
That's-
to one.
The purpose of the Mishnayot was not to make Pesach Halakha. The purpose of the Mishnayot was to create a single text of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. Now, what does that text mean? Oh, that's why we study Gemara. And if you want to make Pesach Halakha, that's why we study Gemara. Right? So distinguish two feats. One feat is the Mishnayot, which is one of the greatest literary feats in human history. The collection of the Mishnayot was an incredible literary feat accomplished by Rabbeinu HaKadosh. The purpose of that literary feat was to summarize the Torah Shebe'al Peh that we got from Moshe Rabbeinu, and that was expanded over the generations to summarize the entire Torah Shebe'al Peh in a single text that will unify all the Hachamim. Now that we have this, how do we make Pesach Halakha? Study the text. Read it. Comes the Hachamim the Gemara. Let's read it. Let's understand it. What does the Mishnah mean? What does this word mean? What's the source for this law? That's why we have the Gemara. Now you make Pesach Halakha, not from the Mishnah. You make Pesach Halakha from the Gemara. Last question. Then we're going to go back to this the Gemara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekol elvera.
Just to be clear, did the Emoraim have authority to legislate or create new laws?
Yes, but that's not because that's because they were the Beit Din HaGadol.
Meaning which weren't in the Mishnah.
The Beit Din HaGadol existed.
Right.
So the answer is yes. Okay, but let's continue. The answer, the answer to the question is yes. That's because they were a Beit Din HaGadol. But that's now we can go. Now we can go.
Rabbeinu HaKadosh was Israel or Babel?
He was in Eretz Yisrael, and he was in the time when it was the best time for the Jewish people. He had great relationship with the Roman authorities. He was wealthy. There was prosperity. And because of that tremendous prosperity, the Hachamim had the leisure to sit down and study Torah and formulate the Mishnayot. Then after that, Rabbeinu HaKadosh saw that it's going to be over. So I'll give you an example. You asked me, do the Amoraim have a right to legislate? According to the Mishnayot, when a person goes up to the Torah Friday, Shabbat morning, first person says Beracha. Beracha Rishonah, he goes up to the Torah. It doesn't say any Beracha. Second person doesn't say Beracha. I don't know. I'm sorry. First person. Second person, no Beracha. Third person, no Beracha. Seventh person doesn't say Beracha at the beginning, says the Beracha then. That's the Mishnah in Masechet Megillah. Comes the Emoraim, they say no. From now on, every person going up to the Torah will say Beracha Lefaneh and Beracha La'achareh. Just an example. So yes, they've legislated laws. I didn't say they didn't legislate laws. They're not going to add to the Torah Shebe'al Peh, right, as such. The Mishnah became the final formulation of the Torah Shebe'al Peh. So anything they wanted to edit is in the text of the Gemara. Let us now continue, because I think you get the idea. Now I want to go to the statement of Ula. So Ula is an Emorah. He is an Emorah. Therefore, he's not going to formulate a new law. He's not even going to make a derasha on the pasuk. What does he have in the pasuk? What word does he use? Remez. What does remez mean? It's not the peshat. It's not a derasha. Remez. When I read the pasuk in the Torah, Baal Koreh, I'm going to think of that law. Okay? Amar Ula. Remez le'edim zomim min Torah menayin. And as I said, he's in the yeshiva, he's developing this thing. Probably, I don't have evidence for this, I would say this is probably in Yeshivat Pumbedita. I say that because Ula is very close with Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda was a Rosh Yeshiva Pumbedita. So I speculate that this discussion is happening in the Yeshiva in Pumbedita. Okay, that's my speculation. And they interrupt him. What type of question are you asking? Remez le'edim zomemin? Really? We need a remez? We need an illusion? We have an explicit pasuk. We don't need an illusion. The haketiv, and here is explicit pasuk. V'asitem lo ka'asher zamam. The pasuk explicitly says that we do to the false witness what he wanted to do to the defendant. That's evim zomemin. So Ula corrects himself. He says, yes, I skipped a word. אלא רמז לעדים זוממים שלוקין מן התורה מנין. Where do we have an allusion to the fact that an עד זומם would get malkut? That's the question. Answer. דכתיב. והסדיקו את הסדיק. והרשיעו את הרשע. Let me read you the pasuk. I want to read you the peshat of the pasuk, and then once you understand the peshat of the pasuk, then we can understand the remez, okay? Because if you don't understand the peshat, how can you understand the remez? So the pasuk says, Ki yihye riv ben anashim. Two people are fighting. There's a disagreement. V'nigeshu el mishpat u'shvatum. You have a disagreement. You come before the judges. Let the judges resolve it. You owe me money. No, I don't owe you money. Yes, you do. Come to the judges. Come to court. V'hisdiku et sadiq. V'hirshiu et harasha. That's the first pasuk. The pasuk says, you, sir, are guilty. I'm sorry. V'hisdiku et sadiq. You are correct. You're zakai. V'hirshiu et harasha. You, sir, are guilty. First pasuk. Second pasuk says, V'haya im bin hakot harasha. If it ends up that the person who is guilty is subject to the criminal penalty of malkut, if that is the case, again, v'haya im bin hakot rasha, the rasha, meaning the guilty person, is bin hakot, is subject to the law of malkut. V'hipilo hashofet v'hikau lefanav. Then the judge will take this person who's subject to malkut, and he will give him malkut. According to the number of lashings that the person should be receiving. And it depends on the strength of the person, that they have to evaluate, and so on. That's a different subject. But under no circumstance are you supposed to give him more than 40 lashings. 39 is the maximum. Right? Never give more than, I heard that in Saudi Arabia, every time the Muslims take something from the Torah, they pervert it. I mean, they have we have one day of Yom Kippur, 40 days Moshe Rabbeinu and Har Sinai, they do 40 days of Ramadan. I mean, it's insane. So I know that in Saudi Arabia, they give lashings, I don't know, hundreds of lashings. I mean, the crazy people, the sick people, I'm sorry, man. It's sick. Okay, I know we're not supposed to be politically incorrect, but that's sick. To give hundreds of lashings to a person. I mean, all the important things in the Torah they get rid of. Evaluate the strength of the person, see how much he can withstand. What do you call it? And also, in addition, to give lashing, you need idim, you need hatra'ah, you need all these laws, you need a certain procedure. You can't just lash a person, right? Let me just read something. 1 second. It's interesting. Okay, no, I just have a very nice Hindush on this pasuk, but maybe I'll say that for another time. Anyway, so the pasuks, that's a peshat of the pasuk. The peshat of the pasuk is, you have two people, there's a disagreement, eventually one of the people gets malkut for his sin. He uses this pasuk as a remez, as an allusion for the fact that edim zomemim get malkut, and he's going to read the pasuk not according to the peshat of the pasuk. Okay, and here's a pesach. Here's the way he's going to read it. Dichti v'hisdiku et sadiq. You say that the sadiq, the good person, is a kai. He's innocent. V'hirshiu et harasha. You say the bad person, he's guilty. V'haya im bin hakot harasha. And if it comes to pass that the guilty person is subject to malkut, if it comes to pass that he's subject to malkut, v'haya im bin hakot harasha. So now this is the derasha. So Ullah asks a question. Mishum vehisdiku. It's not a real question. It's a rhetorical question to bring us to the law of malkut for adim zomemim. So he says, Mishum vehisdiku et sadiq v'hirshu et harasha, because one person is innocent and the other person is guilty. V'haya im bin hakot harasha. Is that the reason that somebody ends up getting a malkut? Really? That's because we're sorting out, this guy is innocent and this guy is guilty and therefore he gets malkut. What is v'histiku sadiq? What is the fact that a guy is going to be declared as innocent? How does that lead to the fact that this rasha is going to get malkut? You understand the question that Ullah is raising in the pasuk? The answer is simple. The real answer is that the Chachamim have to make this guy is Sadiq, this guy is Rasha, this guy gets Malkut. But he's saying, why should the fact that this guy is Sadiq lead to the fact that this guy gets Malkut? Maybe he doesn't get Malkut, maybe he just has to pay money. And by the way, it's a great question. Ullah's point is really great. Because how does a fight between two people lead to the Rasha getting Malkut? It should lead to him paying money. What circumstance I take you to court, Elliot? I take you to court. Under what circumstance can ever lead to the fact that now, okay, I have to get malkut or you have to get malkut? When does it ever happen? Either I have to pay you the money or I don't have to pay you the money. How can it lead to you getting malkut? It's a great point. By the way, Ullah's point is a really smart point. Brother, the Chachamim have a whole derasha on this pasuk. They say that because they're fighting, one of the guys ended up doing a terrible avon, and because he did a terrible avon, he ended up getting malkut. That's the peshat of the pasuk, by the way. But you understand, Ullah's question is awesome. It's sharp. It makes you think, right? So think about the pasuk. Why is he getting malkut? So he says, he's getting malkut. You know why? Here's why he's getting malkut. Because the Dayanim are sorting out this mess. Read. Ella edim shirshu et hasadik. There was a group of witnesses. These witnesses came and they said, this guy, Shimon, is Rasha. He's really a Sadiq. It's false witnesses. We saw him lighting a cigarette on Shabbat, and there was Aidim and Hatra'ah. We saw him. It's a lie, right? So Marshi'im et Hasadik, they're trying to say that this pious person is really an evil person. Comes another set of witnesses, Ve'istik with Hasadik. It's a second set of witnesses. When the pasuk says Ve'istik with Hasadik, it's talking about a second set of witnesses coming and say, wait, this guy Shimon, he's a Sadiq. You know how we know he's a Sadiq? Well, we don't really know he's a Sadiq, but we know that the first two set of witnesses that testified against him, and they say we saw him on Shabbat, they couldn't have been there because they were with us in a Brit Milah on Shabbat at the time that they were supposedly with him, a completely different city, right? So now the Dayanim said this guy's a Sadiq. V'hirshiu et harasha. So now v'shavinu lehaner reshaim, and they're going to say, you false witnesses, you people are the real lowlives, not him. He's innocent. You people are the lowlives. V'haya im binakot harasha, and therefore you give malkut to the rasha. Who's the rasha? The false witnesses. So you see how the pasuk alludes to malkut for Aidim Zomimim. Beautiful remes. I would say that if he was a Tana, if Allah was a Tana, this would have been an official derasha that he gives on the pasuk. But again, he's not a Tana, and therefore it's just a remes. Not because it's not beautiful, but only because an emorah doesn't make derashot and pasukim. Okay? There's a similar thing in the beginning of Masechet Megillah, where they say, Megillah nikret ב-11, ב-12, ב-13, ב-14, ב-15, לא פחות ולא יותר, אז משם, then Gemara says, Hecharemiza, and Hecharemiza, and then it was Tamid of Rabbi Yochanan who says, Hecharemiza, he brings a pasuk in Megillat Esther. What's the remez? Why is it just a remez? It's a remez because he's an emorah, and Megillat Esther is after the it's not even from the Chumash. It's from the Megillah. The Megillat Esther is a source for his remez, right? So you see when Emoraim, generally when Emoraim bring a derasha that they made up on their own, they would bring it as Hecharemiza. Okay. You have some cases where Emoraim brings derashot, but then it says Taneh. He brought an old beraita that he happens to be reciting. It's not that he's a source of that derasha. Okay.
What's the practical difference if it's an official derasha from a Tanah or if it's
well, okay. I mean, Hecharemiza, as a practical matter, you don't have to accept it. Meaning, it doesn't become the official interpretation of the pasuk, right? It becomes more of a mnemonic, and that's why it's called remiza, right? The Chachamim, the way I studied the Shita of the Geonim and Harambam is that it was almost like they wanted to use the Pesukim in the Torah in the case where there was no derashot. I mean, if there's a derashah, it's different. But in the case of Remez, where okay, now every time I read the Pasuk, I remember, what does it mean? Ve'izdiku et hasadik, ve'yirshu et harasha, ve'ayim binakot harasha. What is it? Yeah. Now I remember the law of Edim Zomim that they get malkut, right? It's that way. So it's a beautiful. I call it a derasha, even though formally it's not a derasha, but it's a beautiful derasha on the pasuk. I have to say. Okay.
Is there a material difference between the remez and asmachta?
I think. Good question. I don't think so. I'm not aware of it. Other than asmachta is Aramaic and remez is Hebrew. So I don't think there was a difference, but it's a good question. But if I think of something, or anybody watching this or online, please let me know. Or you're right. Okay. Okay. So that's Ullah. That's what Ullah says. Okay. let's continue. So, and now in the yeshiva, they heard the statement of Ula. At first they interrupted him. But now they're going to critically evaluate what Ula said. And the yeshiva asked the following question. The question the yeshiva asks is as follows. Why don't we learn that he gets malkut? Because there's a pasuk that says, Lo ta'aneh bere'acha et shaker. There's an explicit pasuk that says, you are not allowed to bear false witness against your brother. Now, if you bear false witness against your brother, you have committed a crime. Crimes under Jewish law are subject to malkut, right? That's a law. A crime, you commit a crime, you get malkut. So there is a crime. It says, Lo ta'aneh bere'acha et shaker. Do not be a false witness. These edim zomemim are false witnesses, and therefore they should be getting malkut. You understand the question? So that's a really strong question against Ula. V'tipok le'milot ta'aneh. Answer: Mishum de'haveh lav she'en bo ma'aseh. V'chol lav she'en bo ma'aseh en lokin ala. The answer is because we have a lav. Please let him. We have a minyan in 10 minutes, so if you can join us for the minyan, that would be great. V'chol lav she'en bo ma'aseh en lokin ala. Any lav that has no ma'aseh, there's no malkut. There's no malkut. So when you could be violating a criminal statute in the Torah, but the naked violation of a criminal statute on its own does not result in malkut. Even though there was edim, even though there was hatra'ah, there has to be a ma'aseh. And if there was no ma'aseh, there was no malkut. This lav of Lo ta'aneh bere'acha et shaker is a lav she'en bo ma'aseh. And I want to elaborate just a little on what it means lav she'en bo ma'aseh, because this is really an important subject, and there was some confusion. But nevertheless, what are we saying? Speech is not considered an action. Okay, there's a Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, and it's a great Gemara because it just sheds light on what we're studying here. The Gemara is in Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Samech Amud Bet, and it says as follows: Shane edim zomemin ho'il veyeshnan bere'iyah. That's the Gersa that you'll find in the Vilna Shas. The Vilna Shas says, why is it that edim zomemim do not get malkut? What's the reason? Ho'il veyeshnan bere'iyah. What?
That they do get
I'm sorry, Mechila. Right. Why is it considered that they don't get malkut? Generally speaking, the general rule of edim. What is the rule of edim zomemim? They get v'asitim lo kasher zamam lasot lachiv. On that, the Gemara says, well, why is it that they don't just get malkut? Why kasher zamam lasot lachiv? And the answer is ho'il veyeshnan bere'iyah. Let me explain to you. There's a law, for example, of mekalel et havero b'shem. If a person chas v'shalom curses his friend, this is in Masechet Shavuot, and he curses him with the name of God, that's isur deoraita. Don't do it. Sometimes people get very angry, and it happens, you know. That's isur deoraita, to curse somebody with the name of God. Okay. That's speech, and yet they get malkut. So now you ask the question, well, why do you get malkut? We just said that speech is not considered a ma'aseh. Okay. Let's continue with the Gemara. The Gemara brings another example of shevuat shaker. A person makes a false oath. Let me explain why. I'm not saying false testimony, please. I'm saying false oath. Person says, for example, that I swear, he makes a shevuah, that yesterday, and he uses the name of Hashem, that yesterday it was snowing in New York City. That's a shevuat shav, right? Or he makes a thing, yesterday or tomorrow I'm not going to eat. He makes a shevuah and he eats tomorrow. So he gets malkut. What does he get malkut? So the Gemara says, what does he get malkut? We just says, kol lav she'en bo ma'aseh en lokin alav. And here we have two cases. Mekalel et havero b'shem, speech. Nishpa l'shaker, speech. And he gets malkut. What does he get malkut? So they say there's a difference between that and Edim Zomemim. Edim Zomemim don't get Malkut. They get Malkut. And this is a very difficult Gemara. What's the difference? The Gemara says, Ho'il v'yeshnan bere'iyah. So I researched the subject, and the Rif, Rabbi Yitzhak Al-Fasi, who was the teacher of Harambam, he answers the question. And it's a great answer. He says, if you look at the old Nuschaot, it did not say Re'iyah. There was no Resh in the word. The Nuschaot that we have before us in the Vilna Shas says, Ho'il v'yeshan bere'iyah, because it's something you do with vision. The Eidim Zomemim, they claim to have seen something which they didn't see. Okay, so why does that exclude Ma'aseh? It's a little difficult, I told you. Very difficult Gemara. I'm going to tell you what the Rif says. It's not Ho'il v'yeshnan bere'iyah, Ho'il v'yeshnan be'ayah. What is it, Ho'il v'yeshnan be'ayah? The Rif says, normally, in order to get Malkut for cursing, what do you actually have to do? You have to say a complete sentence. That complete sentence is considered a Ma'aseh. Normally, in order to get Malkut for Shevuat Shakeh, for making false oath, that you violate your oath, or you lied and you say an oath, what do you need? You need to have a sentence. Edim Zomemim don't have to have a sentence. Ho'il v'yeshnan be'ayah. What does it mean be'ayah? I'll explain to you what the Rif says. And this is Masechet Sanedrin of Samech Amud Bet. It's a great Rif. You should look at it after this class. He says, you have two Edim Zomemim coming to the court. One Ed Zomem says, I saw the defendant eating food on Yom Kippur. And the judge now turns to the second witness. Is that correct? He doesn't have to say a sentence. What does ayah mean? Ayah in Arabic. How do you say yes in Arabic? Ewa. Ewa. How do you say, I just have to tell you that when I was young, I used to watch Star Trek. I'm talking 40 years ago. And I remember, was it one of the characters in the Starship Enterprise? Was it the engineer? I forgot his name, Scotty. And how would he say, when he wanted to say yes to Captain Kirk, how would he say yes? Aye, Captain, with his Scottish accent, right? Aye. Ho'il v'yeshnan be'ayah. How do you say yes in antiquity? Aye. Even in the old English language, they had ayah. So what's the point of the Rif? Why is it that Eidim Zomemim is not considered a Maaseh? Because they don't have to articulate a sentence. They can just say aye, a single vowel. And here's the point. Now I'm going to get to the point. We brought in Star Trek. Let's bring in Aristotle. Aristotle makes a point that is really correct, and the Chachamim agree with this point. And I actually went to the Yeshiva Mekubalim in Yerushalayim, and they brought this point of Aristotle as well. It's also prevalent in the Kabbalah, and that is that human speech has consonants. Animal speech has vowels. And therefore, when all you do is say a vowel, that's not considered speech. I, right? That's a vowel, right? Consonants, which is what we do. We always have consonants. That's what creates meaning in words, right? Just the vowels without the consonants will have no meaning. That Aristotle says that, the Mekubalim say that, and the Gemara says it. And by the way, this Gemara, and this is amazing. This Gemara, Ho'il v'yeshnan be'ayah, is actually brought in one of the great Kabbalistic books, one of the early Kabbalistic books. Sefer Yesirah quotes this Gemara. Ho'il v'yeshnan be'ayah. Okay? So now getting back, just to summarize everything we said, what's the difference between Eidim Zomemim that we say, oh, that's lav she'en bo ma'aseh, that doesn't have an action in it? Don't tell me it's speech. Because I can give you examples of people, speech, being considered an action, and they get malkut for it. As I said, a person mekalel chavero b'shem, curses his friend. That's speech, gets malkut. A person makes a false oath. That's speech, he gets malkut. Why don't edim zomemim get malkut? Why do we do v'asitem lo? Ho'il v'yeshnan be'ayah. That's not speech. A vowel is not considered speech. So again, go to the witness. What did you see? You agree with what he just said? Aye. That's the point. So since you can make the violation of Eidim Zomemim without a full articulated human speech, it is considered lav she'en bo ma'aseh ve'en lokin alav. There is no malkut for Eidim Zomemim. If there's no malkut for Eidim Zomemim, then the Gemara has to show us why we need or where is the source for Malkut in the case where Edim Zomim get Malkut, and that's a Derasha Avula. So now you see the whole Gemara. So now you understand the Sugya, why we needed Ullah, why Edim Zomim in general don't have Malkut. They don't have Malkut in general because it's not actionable. It's not actionable because there's no Maaseh. There's no Maaseh because the speech is not human speech. It's unarticulated speech. That's not considered a Maaseh, so there's no Malkut. Oh, so in that case, why are there cases where Edim Zomim do get Malkut? Answer, Ullah. Ullah. It's a remes. It's alluded to in the Torah. It's not explicit. It's not peshat. That's the sugya. So you see how all the open points have been closed. Everything has been tied up together, and now we have the next sugya, which will be next week. If there's any questions, we'll take them. Otherwise, we'll grab it.
So the remes is enough to be prosaic on that?
No. This Edim Zomim get Malkut, that itself. Now you know. You tell me what's the source.
Oh, from the Mishnah.
Kabbalah. Kabbalah. Right. Really.
They
There
show the
is
source
no
of the Kabbalah.
pasuk. We have a Kabbalah that in this case they can get Malkut. Correct. There's no pasuk. So what do you have if you have no pasuk?
Remes.
Remes. You see how simple the sugya is? All comes together beautifully. All right. Any other questions? Shall we say Rabbi Hananya and Arvit?